Well, I'm back at it again. One of the problems before was with the BMS. It was actually shut to cut off at a certain voltage, way a little bit lower than what I would set it. Uh, and that was what was restricting it. I did get it up and running. Didn't mean to leave y'all on the edge there with a failed Christmas Eve thing there, but that's the reality of it. But I did figure it out, got it up and going. I'm still not reading 120 off of L1 or 120 off of L2. Needless to say, no 240 either. And as you can see, she is running. I also hooked in the Wi-Fi, which is green here. Got everything fired up on it, so I can connect to it. I'll show you the screen on it. And now I'm just hooking in a load, and there's where my load's going to be. And then the PV coming in is right there. So I just got to connect that in, both of those into there, and I should be good to go. I think if I put a load to it, maybe it'll wake it up. It may need to be woken up. I got to figure out, maybe enable the button on the side, that kind of stuff. So, but I think I need to hook up a load to it and everything. I've also got to get a better ground. I'm going to ground neutral bond it, use this inverter to do it, because it's going to be off grid for the most part. The only time I want it kicking back on is to recharge the batteries if they go down. And I'll probably just set it at a low percent, something where it just kind of gives it 40%, 50% maybe, and then quits, because I don't want the grid feeding my batteries all the time. I just want the sun to come back out. We'll try that out, but it is running. It's doing half decent. I haven't had it hook it up to a load line yet, so that's the next step I'm heading into. I got a tip from the Adventures of a Renaissance Man, and he suggested I turn off the EOC in green, which I had turned on to begin with. The minute I got it on Wi-Fi, and didn't think about that, and I think it just put this thing to sleep, and that's why I couldn't get anything to read it. He was absolutely right, and I appreciate it. Well, good morning. The first thing I've been needing to do is put this ground in so I could ground my inverter. So got that done. There's my grounding rod. I'm putting it in. That's an 8-foot grounding rod. Pushed it in. I use something like that to get it 7 feet in, and then sledgehammers. And now I can finish hooking it up. All right, I got my earth ground finally installed and put in. I feel a little safer now hooking up everything else now that I have an earth ground. I'm going to, this inverter's going to be where the ground neutral bonds, because it's off grid. I will enable its ground neutral bond there. From the supplier, basically said that that's how it ought to be set up, and what research I've done, I need to have the neutral ground bond happen in the inverter, since it's a totally off grid. In the process though of putting in AC, they actually said that then the ground neutrals needs to switch to the AC, but there's no relay in here that recognizes that and switches it. So they don't recommend you hooking it to an AC. Why do they have that in there? I guess it's either on grid or off. This is going to be off grid, so the only time AC is going to be coming in here if these batteries were to fail or empty out, and then it would just come on for a short period of time, charge them back up, run the load, and then it'll switch. I'm going to make it switch back over. Hopefully I can make that happen. That's going to be some of the things I'm going to find out about this. I feel better. Now I can hook in my load into my load service panel and not worry so much about the ground. Got a good ground finally. Wow, that is really hard to read. Or I'm getting really old and can't see. Well, I got it all hooked up. I'm going to got all three of my wires. I'll run it over here. I'm going to use this stuff. Got it at Home Depot. I've seen a few other people say it's horrible or something to that effect. I guess I'm about to find out. But it was the only thing I could find. All I need to do is one line from there to there. Something to run these in. So we'll see. Well, at first it was real easy to cut with Sawzall. And when I finally slid it in, it popped in there pretty good. I thought I was good, and I came over here and popped it in here, and then that came undone, so I realized I had to push it a lot harder to get it in there to lock. And it just doesn't bend well. It's going to be a bit of a mess here. But I'll see what else I can do with it. I had watched a YouTube video saying they didn't know what size this hole was. It's 1.5 inches. So if you want to get your cables to it, just didn't like the idea of my cables hitting that string. But it's 1.5 inches will work. I didn't want to use the wood one, so that'll fit it. I use this as an antioxidant to keep it from rusting and stuff. I put that on the ground wire going outside on the ground post out there. I put it on the terminals up here as well, just to get a good connection, keep them from rusting up. For my battery cells, when I finish them, I actually prefer something else. This stuff, which I learned from Ray Build's Cool Stuff. So that goes on the batteries. It's actually a more of a conductive surface, so that it all welds good. You also want to make sure you got the right bus bars, good bus bars that tie them together. I've gotten some that the resistance was a lot higher, almost at 12, 13 resistance, while the other ones are at 8, which is these are good. A lot of thickness to them, and I scratched them, and they were actually copper beneath the tinning. So that's what you want, good bus bars. I just feel a lot safer crimping these with this crimper. And it's hard to believe that this little bitty thing will actually fit on an 8-gauge wire. But it will. Papa. Look at that. And we crimp down on it. And you end up with a nice solid connector there. Well, there's one thing I noticed about this. I went to unscrew this one, but this one, and this one, if you can see in there, are tied into the inverter. So you really only have 1, 2, 3, 4, a few in the middle there you want to use. You don't want to, if you unscrew the other ones, you're disconnecting it from the inverter. So I'm going to use the ones that are offset from this.